Welcome back to Kleppers Corner. Today in history, the show where we crack open the calendar, shake out the dust, and see what historical weirdness falls out. And today is December 22nd, a date that apparently said, what if we just cram every major plot twist of human civilization into one 24-hour period? A day so dense with drama it deserves its own therapist, or at least a strongly worded email from HR. Let's get into it. Segment 1, the winter solstice, humanity's original panic attack. December 22nd often brings the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year, which meant that for thousands of years, people looked at the sky and thought, oh no, the sun is ghosting us. Entire civilizations went into seasonal meltdown. Newgrange, Stonehenge, all these ancient monuments basically existed so people could stand around for one morning a year and go, whew, the sun's back. Thought we were done. Someone start boiling the soup. And every culture had its own version of a cosmic group hug. The Romans had Saturnalia, where society flipped upside down. The Hopi welcomed the sun with dances. Iran survives the long night with poetry and pomegranates. Meanwhile, most Americans survive it with seasonal depression and peppermint-flavored sugar. But you can see why December 22nd becomes a stage for big turning points. This date feels like the world teetering on the edge between darkness and whatever comes next. That theme is going to hit hard as we go on. Segment 2, George Washington resigns, the ultimate I quit. December 22nd, 1783. George Washington travels to Annapolis, looks Congress squarely in the eye and says, I quit. And not in the dramatic reality TV way. He just steps down from commanding the army. America had just won the revolution, and everyone expected Washington to declare himself King George 2.0. Instead, he said, nah, I'm good. I've got gardening to do. This was such a shock that King George III literally said Washington would be the greatest man alive if he actually walked away from power. Imagine being so respectable that your enemies start doing TED Talks about you. The resignation choreography was so ceremonial that Congress even voted on how Washington should bow. Imagine Congress today trying to vote on anything. The chamber would catch fire before they agreed on which direction to nod. But Washington surrendering military power to civilian authority basically ensured the United States wouldn't turn into a traveling circus of generals fighting over crown jewels. It was the beginning of America saying, we do peaceful transitions here, mostly. Segment 3, Siege of Izmail, when Russia looked at an impregnable fortress and said, bet. December 22nd, 1790. The Ottoman fortress of Izmail sits on the Danube, smugly considered untakeable. The walls were high, the moat was wide, the soldiers well armed. It was the Fort Knox of fortresses. And then Alexander Suvorov showed up with Russian troops and said, we're going over, around, and through. Pick a direction. Before attacking, Suvorov gave the Ottomans an ultimatum. They ignored it. Suvorov replied with, essentially, cool, see you at 5:30 a.m. sharp. The assault was absolute chaos. Infantry scaling walls, river fleets smashing into docks, street by street fighting. Imagine the world's worst HOA disagreement, but with bayonets. By afternoon, Izmail fell. Russia lost thousands. The Ottomans lost tens of thousands. And Europe collectively went, okay, remind us not to make Suvorov mad. The victory shifted power around the Black Sea and fueled centuries of geopolitical tension. You know, history's version of your neighbor borrowed your lawnmower and never gave it back. Segment 4, the Dreyfus Affair, when France face-planted into its own injustice. December 22nd, 1894. A French court-martial convicts Captain Alfred Dreyfus of treason based on handwriting that didn't match, motives he didn't have, and evidence he wasn't allowed to see. Basically, the trial equivalent of someone saying, trust me, bro. Dreyfus was Jewish, and anti-Semitism soaked the whole process, like someone spilled bigotry all over the courtroom floor. They sentenced him to life on Devil's Island, which was the 19th century version of being deleted from the cloud. Then came the national meltdown. Half of France said, "We should fix this injustice." The other half said, "But the army might look bad." That's right. France invented internet comment sections before the internet. This one conviction triggered a political earthquake. The fall of reputations, the rise of civil rights movements, and even the spark that led to modern Zionism. All because December 22nd decided to toss a legal grenade into French society and walk away whistling. Segment 5. Brandenburg Gate reopens. Berlin throws the world's dampest party. December 22nd, 1989. Berliners gather in pouring rain to reopen the Brandenburg Gate, the symbolic heart of divided Germany. Thousands climb the gate, cheer, cry, and unintentionally crack parts of the sculpture on top. Nothing says freedom like immediately breaking the national monument. West German Chancellor Helmut Kohl walks through the gate declaring, "I am walking through a free gate," while East German PM Hans Modrow nods like a guy who knows his government's warranty is about to expire. This moment wasn't the fall of the wall. It was the emotional confirmation that reunification was happening, whether the paperwork caught up or not. December 22nd basically stamped the "we're done with division" card. Segment 6. Fall of Ceausescu. Dictators. They're just not built for crowd surfing. On literally the same date, December 22nd, 1989, Romania had the opposite experience of Germany. Instead of cheering crowds opening gates, they had angry crowds chasing the dictator off rooftops. Nicolae Ceausescu, who had spent decades turning Romania into a real-life dystopian novel, gives a speech to a crowd that suddenly turns against him. You can see the moment in footage where his face says, "Oh no, my dictatorship has a glitch." The army defects, protesters storm the Central Committee building, and Ceausescu flees by helicopter. When your presidency ends like an action movie escape scene, history is not going to file you under successful administrator. Within 3 days, the regime collapses completely. December 22nd becomes Romania's pivot from totalitarian rule to a messy, confusing, but genuine revolution. It's like the universe tried to fit all possible endings to communism into one day. Segment 7. The coelacanth. Surprise! Extinction was only a suggestion. December 22nd, 1938. A South African fishing crew pulls up a creature that looks like a prehistoric tank with fins. Museum curator Marjorie Courtney Latimer takes one look and goes, that's not in any of my books." And she worked at a museum. That's like a chef discovering a vegetable no one has ever cut before. Turns out it was a coelacanth, a species believed to have gone extinct with the dinosaurs 66 million years ago. This fish ghosted the fossil record for tens of millions of years and then casually returned like, "Hey, LOL, sorry I was offline." Scientists went nuts. Paleontologists had an existential crisis, and the fish itself probably thought, if I stay in the deep ocean, maybe humans won't bother me. Spoiler, humans bothered it immediately. December 22nd, the day extinction called customer support and got reversed. Segment 8, Beethoven's Monster Concert. 4 hours of frozen musical chaos. December 22nd, 1808. Beethoven holds a massive benefit concert in Vienna, premieres multiple masterpieces, and absolutely none of it goes smoothly. It's 4 hours long. The theater has no heat. The orchestra barely rehearsed. Half the musicians probably begged their fingers not to fall off mid-symphony. Beethoven had to restart an entire piece because the performers fell apart like a middle school band recital. But here's the thing. This one disastrous evening gave the world Symphony No. 5, the da-da-da-da that every villain uses as a ringtone, and Symphony No. 6, a revolutionary pastoral masterpiece. Not to mention the Choral Fantasy and Piano Concerto No. 4. It's like December 22nd said, here's all the greatest hits. Also, please ignore the train wreck happening on stage. In conclusion, December 22nd might be history's most dramatic overachiever. It gives us rebirth through solstice, humility through Washington, brutality through Ismail, injustice through Dreyfus, celebration through Berlin, revolution through Romania, scientific wonder through the coelacanth, and musical brilliance through Beethoven. If history were a TV show, December 22nd would be the season finale. Big twists, emotional breakdowns, questionable lighting, and a fish no one saw coming.